Welcome to HD Nation, your guide to the best in HD content and the best in home theater gear, no matter what your budget is. I'm Patrick Norton.
Hi, and I'm Robert Heron.
We've got the best HDTVs of 2013, our favorite Blu-rays, and maybe some online titles from 2013, and the quietest room in the world. Get us certified in this episode. But first, Mr. Heron's going to talk about how to use an over-the-air tuner box with the, an over-the-air tuner box with the Xbox One.
That's really the key to it. We had an email, or actually a Twitter recently. Jared, I want to say, Jared did email us. He was basically asking, as a cord cutter himself with an over-the-air antenna for local channels, is there an easy way, hopefully low-cost way, of converting that signal into HDMI for use with the Xbox One? Great show and keep up the awesome work. That's the key, though. A lot of TVs already feature a tuner built into the TV, and there really is no way to use that built-in tuner that is included in just about every HDTV out there with the Xbox One's HDMI pass-through.
So annoying.
So, and the sweet part about that is then you're going to need something external like this in order to use it with the One Guide and its voice control. That is really the goal of using the Xbox One right there. You're going to need an external standalone unit, and that's exactly what that is. And one we kind of like, at least I like a lot, is the Homeworks HW150 PVR from Mediasonic. This is about 46 bucks. We'll get into it later, but the active form is really what drew me to this product most of all, and there were folks getting busy trying to get the HW150 working with the Xbox One. And from there, we found this tweet of goodness that says, quote, "The HW150 PVR is compatible with the Xbox One. You just enter the remote code N4076 in the TV settings. Troubleshooting, remote code, cable box, and it does not work for their 180 model receiver, though. That's the one thing. Okay. And we will be featuring a full review of the Homeworks HW150 PVR in an upcoming episode of HD Nation. But the short answer really is no, you can't use that built-in tuner in your TV, but with an external box, you can."
How much are we talking about for this?
Less than 50 bucks.
Oh.
For a tuner that will also, a single tuner that will also act as a PVR to record stuff while you're away. And I have to say, short synopsis, I like that thing a lot.
Not only HDMI output, but component and the dreaded composite.
It does have that, but I forbid you to use it. There you go. RF pass-through as well if you're dealing with old school TVs. But good product, but you're going to need an external box no matter what. And there's an example of one you could get today to hook up for all you cord cutters with Xbox Ones, and that's the deal for that. It's not a difficult process, but no. Theoretically, the Xbox One could use its IR blaster to control your TV in order to switch it over to the apps or to its built-in tuner, but then you wouldn't be using the pass-through, and you'd be dealing with the audio from the TV. The Xbox is still kind of listening to the room. That would be a really confusing situation, and that's probably why they're not enabling a feature like that with the Xbox One right now. So stick to an over-the-air tuner. We'll talk about that one in an upcoming episode, and yeah, I like it a lot right now if you're hungry for one. Anyway, hey, 2013 ended up being a terrific year for HDTVs. Across the board, I was seeing improved picture quality. Even the OK sets were looking pretty darn good. But if you're shopping for a new HDTV to take advantage of, say, special offers or gift cards you received for free shipping this holiday season, and you know what? What are the best HDTVs out there? Well, I'm going to take this moment to just highlight a few of the special sets that caught my eye in really no particular order. These are what I'm considering to be the best sets if you had the money and you want to spend it right now on great display technology. I'll start off with Samsung, their F8500 plasma television. Now, we reviewed this a short time ago, and without a doubt, it produces the brightest picture of any plasma television we've seen to date. Bright, LCD bright. Now, you combine that bright output with the ability to maintain inky dark black levels, and you have superior picture contrast for almost any viewing environment. And that TV is also available in 51, 60, and 64-inch screen sizes. Superb television technology with all the cool stuff built in as well. Nice. Now, singing right along, Panasonic. Panasonic has stopped production of its plasma televisions, but the company's swan song lineup includes two of the very best flat panel TVs you can lay your eyes on, including what I'm showing right here is their VT60 series, and I'd also lump in together with that the ZT60. Both deliver world-class black levels and superb picture contrast, which basically you need a good black level in order to get a punchy, contrasted picture. They also have really pioneered picture setup tools that allow calibrators like me to coax impressive accuracy out of the imagery that you get from one of these sets. And I'm going to miss those glass-filled pixels when they leave, but I also really do appreciate on a separate...
Gas-filled pixels.
Gas-filled pixels.
Gas-filled, not glass.
No, gas. Neon and xenon, or some combination thereof. Also, with all the apps you see on TVs nowadays, I really do appreciate what Panasonic does in terms of providing an uncluttered app experience that you can use or not, and if you do use it, it's not going to be filled with a lot of distracting stuff you don't use, and I really appreciated that.
This is probably a good moment for us to answer a question we've been getting a lot lately, which is how do I get an HDTV without apps? How do I get an HDTV without built-in this or that or the other thing? I don't want my HDTV to have Netflix. I don't want my HDTV to have the ability to play Angry Birds. I don't think you're going to be able to do much about it. Seiki, for example, does a really good job of building HDTVs without any additional functionality, no set-top box functionality, no streaming, but that's incredibly unusual. I think as over 2014, it's probably going to be almost impossible to buy HDTVs without the stuff, the extra added features built into it.
Down the line, if you look at any company's particular lineup,
right,
you'll find models at the very bottom. Well, I'm not calling those bad sets, but they will be. How can we get the price lower?
Right.
One way is to cut things like that out, like app support, or lower the number of inputs and things like that. But
if you want the best glass and the best processing, you're probably going to get the onboard applications, whether you want them or not.
And you don't have to use them. With any of these TVs, if there's apps built in, ignore them if you don't want to use them. Moving right along, LG, though, is also another company that I felt did really well for 2013, and their lineup included some of the best-looking LCDs I've ever tested. Also, LG's out-of-the-box color accuracy with its mid-range and premium models that I saw were excellent. And I've come full circle with LG's passive 3D technology, especially when paired with a set like this with 4K screen resolution. Now, this is LG's 9000 series televisions, and this one in particular is the LA9700. Basically, it's among the very few LCD televisions you're going to find today that provides full array LED backlighting, where there are individual blocks of controlled LEDs behind the screen that can be brightened or dimmed based on the content to produce a beautifully contrasted picture. You compare that to most LCD TVs out there nowadays, where they do an edge-lit display, where they use far fewer LEDs to light the screen, but they're doing it from the edge, and you can do some cool things with that too, but to really control the light output on the screen, it's nice to have that array behind there, but it costs more to do.
Right.
And with 4K screen resolution, the LA9700's passive 3D glasses are delivering full 1080p resolution to each eye for an even more detailed experience. So if you're kind of poo-pooing passive technology for a while there with 1080p screens, because you are effectively cutting the resolution in half for each eye, this gets around that, and it provides that full resolution with no loss in quality if you're looking at something like a 3D Blu-ray.
Does it deal with the refresh rate a little bit better than, say, with a 1080p 30 hertz signal?
It'll be fine with things like that, because it's also featuring not only it's either going to be 120 hertz refresh rate technology with a scanning backlight system, or it'll be true 240 technology, which I'm pretty much guessing that the premium LG model does feature a true 240 hertz refresh rate, and probably not 120 with other technologies added, like a scanning backlight system to improve motion resolution or to reduce blurring when scenes are moving really quick.
Cool.
And if I could just quickly add a projector to the list of great stuff out there, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that Epson has done really well this year. 4 models currently listed in Projector Central's top 10 list, and the new 5030UB, listed right there at number 2, is basically offers everything I could want in terms of terrific contrast, good light output, a good warranty, and a price that makes it an attractive option if you are someone who maybe bought an entry-level projector and you're looking for something more of a step-up model. But that UB also stands for ultra black, so they're doing better things in terms of producing inky dark black levels if you've got a good room with good light control for that room as well.
That's the one thing missing from my $700 projector is blacks.
The darker you can make the room, the more you will notice how good a TV can or cannot make black.
I was thinking about that last night because I had a black room and a big gray screen, which was kind of funny because it was an episode of Arrow, and there was a lot of black that was gray against a black wall.
You could put sunglasses on and just turn up the brightness on the projector, but that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, my wife stares at me oddly enough as it is when I'm watching television at this point. Now, if you're looking to show off your home theater system, there are some great Blu-rays that dropped this year that do not require much introduction. Star Trek Into Darkness, it's not the reboot. That was an amazing script, but damn, the colors in that opening scene pop. Iron Man 3 just kicked Iron Man 2's ass. Pacific Rim, Fast and Furious 6, goodbye Paul Walker. Monsters University, Skyfall, which brings us Dame Judi Dench, and a script that mostly redeems Daniel Craig's most excellent Bond after the incomprehensible Quantum of Solace. That script was a mess, but Dame Judi Dench killing people in like the Scottish Highlands or wherever that was just awesome. Anime fans should be thrilled with Akira, the 25th anniversary edition. I still find this classic movie mostly incomprehensible, but I love Foolie Cooley and Bebop Cowboys, so what do I know? Blu-ray.com notes that this release includes not only the forceful Japanese Dolby True HD 5.1 mix at 192 kilohertz, but both the 1988 and the 2001 English dubs, and complements Funimation on a transfer that looks spectacularly vivid and dumps the letterboxing for a 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio. Breaking Bad, the final season, which didn't disappoint superfans the way Dexter did. I also think Justified, the complete 4th season, is awesome. Deputy U.S. Marshal Raylan Givens has an unbelievable story arc. And hey, I'll be honest, my wife would happily watch Timothy Oliphant read a phone book for an hour each week. She's a big fan of watching the mayhem unfold in Harlan County. It's just awesome. This is the end. 6 friends trapped in a house in LA while the world ends and are forced to leave when supplies run out. Excellent soundtrack, but Blu-ray.com calls the video naturally bland and prone to banding. Night scenes of smoke, yo. But if you're not a fan of James Franco, Jonah Hill, Jay Baruchel, and Seth Rogen, you might skip this one, though I always find watching LA get trashed a joy. The Conjuring. The description on Rotten Tomatoes says it all. Before there was Amityville, there was Harrisville. The Conjuring tells the, quote, true story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. World-renowned paranormal investigators, let me guess, demons, family, isolation, farmhouse. Look, it's 87% fresh on the tomato meter. That's a big deal for a horror movie. Before midnight, if you loved Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy in 95's Before Sunrise and 2004's Before Sunset, I know you're a big fan of the dramatic romantic things. Richard Linklater is back and helping the pair in the 3rd romantic drama in the series. Spring Breakers, I mean, look at the New York Times. The one film Cineast and John Waters can agree on. It's like Cares to Cinema and Sight and Sound all raved about this movie alongside John Waters. I still haven't seen it because if I bring that movie in my house, my wife will kill me. There were some incredible documentaries this year. We Steal Secrets is the story of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange's website, that at least before Snowden and the NSA brought the largest security leak in the history of the United States to the world's attention, and the act of killing. This is not an easy film, but it's probably a great one. Produced by Werner Herzog, directed by Joshua Oppenheimer. I think the Chronicle's Mick LaSalle nails it when he says Oppenheimer's documentary interviews leaders of Indonesian death squads responsible for deaths of millions and has them reenact the killings. The combination of drama therapy and accidental self-exposure, utterly bizarre, unexpected, and valuable. The critics are all over that movie. I'm not entirely sure I'm ready to watch the entire thing, but it is probably one of the big movies of 2013. House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, big in my house this year. Both look stunning in HD if you have a fast enough Netflix connection, and House of Cards is also out on Blu-ray. If we could just get Gravity on Blu-ray.
There you go. Well, I still haven't caught up on the new Star Trek or on Pacific Rim, so I got some good sci-fi action, I think, coming up in the holidays here.
And hey, if you want to get out of your home theater and see something interesting in a movie this holiday season, check out Saving Mr. Banks. It is supposed to be epic. Emma Thompson plays children's author Mary Travers. That's the woman that wrote Mary Poppins. Tom Hanks brings Walt Disney to life. This pair of 2-time Oscar winners apparently do their usual yeoman work with the 20-year saga of Walt Disney bringing his daughter's favorite book, Mary Poppins, to the screen. 92% so far on the tomato meter. Audiences are rating it even higher.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good review.
I don't know where they're seeing it, but it's like got like 98%.
It almost drags me into the theater to put my eyeballs on the screen.
The opposite of seeing a movie in the theater, the world's quietest room, every parent's fantasy, and a necessary place for doing accurate sound perception evaluations. If you haven't heard about this, this is Orfield Labs. Where did it go? Orfield Labs.
Hello, Orfield Laboratories.
Well, it looks like it's a super mellow website, and you start digging into it, and it's like, oh, projects for clients. Well, the interesting thing about these guys, above and beyond perceptual market research, is some of the stuff they're doing with, well, literally they have the quietest room on Earth at this point.
And there it is. Actually, there's Mr. Orfield right there, standing in his quietest room in the world.
An anechoic chamber, that's what those big baffles you see behind him, located in South Minneapolis, awarded a Guinness World Record for its negative decibel sound. Try -9 dB, which is like head collapsing levels. Like I've always hated going in anechoic chambers. Boy, I hate saying that word. Anechoic chambers. The Daily Mail reports that it's 99.99% sound absorbent. Volunteers see hallucinations and, quote, the longest anyone can bear the Earth's quietest place is 45 minutes.
Let's have a contest to see how that works.
Orfield told the Mail when it's quiet, ears will adapt. The quieter the room, the more things you hear. You'll hear your heart beating. Sometimes you can hear your lungs, hear your stomach gurgling loudly. you become the sound. Apparently, he can hear the artificial valve in his heart.
Oh, that's a
when
good
he's standing inside that room.
Wow. And you start hearing the medical implants inside of you, you know it's a quiet room.
Apparently, it does such a good job absorbing sound, you actually start losing all your perceptual cues that help you do things like stand up.
I've been in RF rooms where they absorb all the RF in a room to see, they put the target object right in the center of the room and rotate it, and they measure what's coming off of it to see like, exactly what is being emitted by that object. This is just the same thing though, but for sound, in a sense that this room is also pretty much used for product testing. Basically things like figuring out how much sound a cell phone makes, or NASA uses it to test astronauts.
Like and to wait for them, they put a tank in the chamber, and then they wait for them to start to hallucinate from the lack of noise, because like space is the world's biggest anechoic chamber. I thought that was kind of horrifying, and then if they can push through the hallucinations to work.
And because of this room being so specialized, other manufacturers, even people like Harley Davidson use the lab too in terms of doing perceptual market research. And you need a super quiet place in order to really accurately measure what's coming off. And the baffling in the room itself, those large pieces of geometry are there to stop the various different wavelengths. Really cool. It's easier to stop certain frequencies than others. And you can see this is in 3 dimensions. You actually have a grid on the floor that's suspended above the baffles below. And all of these are specifically tuned to grab some of the frequencies. I want to say the biggest structures are for grabbing the low end frequencies because they can be the hardest to actually suppress.
To isolate.
There is no reflection in the room either. It's something you really don't realize until it's gone, but reflectionless rooms at first might sound like, wow, this would be a great place to do a recording. But a room like that would be so quiet that, honestly, a few minutes in there, it would probably become somewhat disturbing, especially if you're being quiet and you start hearing things like, wow, that's the sound of my lungs, or I can hear the blood going through my carotid artery, and it's like, maybe I need to leave the room.
But it's kind of funny that, like, one of the things we mentioned is companies have used it to test the audible emissions from a cell phone screen.
Electromechanical devices too. Maybe the screen itself is making a hum sound or some kind of whine that you would normally not hear in normal operation, but in order to get proper documentation of exactly what something's doing, you got to drop it in a room like that. And if you happen to live in Minneapolis, I'd sign up to see if there's a tour there to check that out. And
maybe an annual how long could you stand it before you vomit contest?
I'm willing to bet they have a good tour. And
so
I would like to check that out.
I mean, we've seen stuff like room tombs and other things that are designed to kill standing waves or eliminate a lot of reflections. We've talked about putting a carpet in a room, hanging curtains, and how that can sort of deaden the room enough to keep it from sort of vibrating your sound everywhere. Outside of product testing, does this level of intensity have any place in home theater?
Not really. I mean, that would be nice. I mean, that would be the extreme example of what you're trying to achieve to a degree. That's more for scientific study. You want a little reflection in a room. You want it to sound normal. That's not a normal sounding room. and in the case
has no sound. It's negative 9 dB.
It's probably also excellent at isolation, which is probably one of the biggest things you do in home theater, room design, is isolate the room from the rest of the house for a couple of reasons. One, you're not being interrupted by sounds coming in, and likewise, if you have a busy household, it's a great way to isolate that room from the rest of the house so you can feel free to turn up the volume without, say, waking up half the people living there. And those kind of design choices, and starting from the very least expensive things, like you mentioned, wall coverings and floor coverings, to just hanging pictures and ensuring that it's just not a flat piece of sheetrock standing there, can go a long ways. And taking it up a step, you also have technologies like, you know, isolating the walls or getting the walls separated from the foundation or the beams they're attached to, and doing further work like that. And you can spend all you want on it, but the goal is really just that keeping it nice for you inside while preserving peace and tranquility on the outside of the room for the people that might be nearby.
Not waking up the house when you fire up Pacific Rim.
Totally. Hey, last week we answered a question about frame rate differences between the UK and North America, and could someone buy, say, a TV here in the United States and use it overseas? Well, our sharp-eyed and eared audience stands ready to further enlighten. Dave emailed us writing, "Hi guys, great show, I watch it every week. One mistake in the last episode that I'm sure others caught: NTSC and PAL are both analog television standards, but are effectively dead, having been replaced by ATSC in the United States and DVB in the UK. Now, of course, the fact that the US and the UK use different DTV standards only reinforces your point that an HDTV made for the US market probably won't work in the UK and vice versa. But NTSC and PAL are tech past, and your show is, after all, about the latest and greatest tech out there." Signed, Dave says thanks, and I thank Dave.
Many thanks,
Many thanks, actually. Dave's correct about ATSC and DVB being digital broadcast standards in the US and the UK, respectively, replacing NTSC and PAL. However, ATSC and DVB are broadcast television transmission standards, and when it comes to video formats, shades of NTSC and PAL are alive and kicking.
50 hertz versus 60 hertz.
Little things like that. And now the Blu-ray technology has helped standardize the whole situation quite a bit.
Right.
Almost all Blu-ray movies are encoded as on the disc as 1080p 24 video. Now, the Blu-ray player that you put the disc in will actually make any necessary conversions for the display it's connected to. But for broadcast television and the new digital broadcast standards, they actually include those SD formats, and the related NTSC and PAL frame rates carry over into those resolutions. As you mentioned, we could have things like, well, in the UK, well, let me scroll down. Here's the ATSC standards I've got on a Wikipedia page.
UK television programs can be 1080-50i 25p or 720-50p 25p. North American HD would refer to the 1080-60i and 30p or 720-60p 30p. Not all of the available formats in these standards are regularly used, but they could be, because the digital TV standards are a hot mess put together by a bunch of irritating, competing consumer electronics companies that wanted to complicate our lives and yours.
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't realize it, but broadcasters could do a 1080p 24 or 30 progressive signal if they wanted to. That's in the ATSC spec. But here in North America, the best you're going to find in broadcast television is 1080i 60. And for me personally, I'm just thankful that there are good video conversion hardware built into modern TVs and Blu-ray players, and that buying a TV locally is the best way to ensure that you get the best picture quality with your local content that you're receiving. So,
plus, going back to that question, I still think the biggest problem if you want to get an HDTV to another country across an ocean is shipping it is going to be expensive.
Without a doubt.
Unless you have access to, unless you're on a container ship.
Depending on where it's going, of course. But
yeah. Oh my goodness.
I've heard it's cheaper to send containers back to China than it is to bring them here. So,
I don't even want to go there right
judging
now.
by the pile near where I live, yes, there are a lot of containers.
Actually, it's cheaper for them to make them in China than for us to ship them back there. That's why there's piles of them over at the Oakland Seaport. That's it for this episode of HD Nation. Do us a favor, subscribe at revision3.com/HDNation or youtube.com/HDNation.
That is right. And please email us your comments, your questions, and suggestions, or please post them right down below. And until next time, thank you for watching.
Don't forget, at HDNation on Twitter or HDNation@revision3.com. Drop us a line.
I need more HD. More.